Hi folks, look, here's the deal. This is the panel on using the Clean Water State Revolving Fund to reduce nutrients from agriculture. An overview of obstacles and opportunities. My name is Don Waye, and I'm with the Nonpoint Source Program in EPA headquarters. I'll be presenting the national perspective, and will be followed by presentations from two states. First from Minnesota, which has been at this every year for 25 years and doing it quite well. And then we'll hear from Kansas, which just started this past fall, but jumped into it in a big way. And both of them will tell you that if their states can do it, yours can too. Or if your state has already done a bit of it in the past, how you can do it better and with more consistency. Now, I'll turn off my webcam so you can see the slides without this little box covering up the corner, and so you won't be distracted by my rooster. Here's what we're going to cover in this presentation and how it fits into the panel. And following these presentations, Michelle Wilcox from EPA Region 10 will moderate a panel session with the three presenters. And just for everyone's situational awareness, for this panel only, we have invited interested people from the Clean Water SRF community, which should make for a more interesting and useful panel discussion. I don't know how many have joined us, but welcome. So here we go. First, what is the Clean Water State Revolving Fund? Very simply, it is an environmental bank that's in the business of making low-cost loans and providing creative financing for a wide range of water quality projects to address both point and non-point source pollution concerns. And it was established under the Clean Water Act in 1987, right along with the 319 program, and it gives states great flexibility in how they manage their programs. So the arrows show how the money flows into and out of the program to address clean water needs at the project level. The overall fund is administered primarily by state agencies, but there are national aspects that EPA gets involved with. EPA awards capitalization grants to state programs each year, and the states contribute 20% state match. These are the two gold arrows in the upper left. And the state's environmental bank, the SRF program, is shown there in the middle with the big S and the two fishes. With these funds, the state programs make low-interest loans to eligible recipients. Many states also choose to leverage their programs by going to the bond market. But the real beauty of the program is the blue arrow on the right side marked loan repayments. That's because it's showing that the loan repayments go back into the state's water infrastructure banks, those state clean water SRF programs, to finance new projects, allowing the funds to revolve over time and be recycled into new projects. So the bank becomes self-sustaining and has more and more money to lend out over time. That is, the pot of funding grows, enabling each state to accomplish more. Minnesota calls theirs the money tree. The SRFs set specific loan terms, including interest rates from 0% to market rate and repayment periods up to 30 years. They also determine eligible borrowers and are responsible for selecting and funding projects with flexibility to target resources to meet their own goals, objectives, and priorities. The trick is to ensure that non-point source needs are recognized as a worthy priority by their state environmental banks. And given that non-point sources are collectively the nation's #1 water quality problem, you'd think it would be an easy sell, but we'll see in a bit why there are challenges. The sole point of this slide is not to show you a long list of project types that are eligible for Clean Water State Revolving Fund assistance, but just to show you that non-point source projects are eligible. There's a lot of stuff related to point sources on that list, but right there in the second line is the primary non-point source eligibility and a direct tie-in to state Section 319 non-point source management program. If there's something mentioned in a state's non-point source 5-year plan, then the state's water infrastructure bank can financially support it, but can is not the same as will, and we're going to unpack that in a bit. But listen, here's the deal. So long as a project helps implement an aspect of a state's current non-point source management program, capital costs are eligible. Unfortunately, operation and maintenance costs are not. To give you a feel for the size of the Clean Water SRF program and how much money is available, over the life of the program through this year, 33 years, the Clean Water SRF has provided over $145 billion in assistance to water quality projects. Annual funding has averaged nearly $7 billion over the past 3 years, and it was about $7.5 billion last year alone. This is by far EPA's and the nation's largest supply of dedicated funding to address water quality problems nationally. Compared to this, the 319 grant program doesn't even come close. Yet just 3.6% of all that funding has gone toward projects that address non-point source pollution. And to give you an idea of the enormity of the Clean Water SRF program, that 3.6% of the pot eclipses 33 years of continuous Section 319 grants. I will say that our grants are much more strategically targeted for effectiveness, but wouldn't it be nice to leverage a bit more of the SRF funds to address the nation's #1 water quality problem? So these two pie charts show the disparity rather dramatically. Although Clean Water SRF is intended to be used to address needs from point sources and non-point sources alike, there is a disparity between the causes of water body impairments and where states direct their Clean Water SRF dollars. An EPA analysis of tens of thousands of TMDLs showed that non-point sources are the primary cause of impairment in 76% of those water bodies. Yet, less than 4% of the Clean Water SRF dollars have gone toward addressing non-point source needs. The overwhelming majority of Clean Water SRF has gone toward addressing point source needs for various reasons. So, we have our work cut out for us to try to move the needle and enlarge the non-point source slice of the funding pie. Here's what I'm talking about. The blue line shows 319 grant funding over time, which as you can see has been fairly steady in recent years. And the crazy orange line that bounces through the blue one represents just 3.6% of the Clean Water SRF that's been used for various categories of non-point source. So, more about those categories on the next slide. So, these are the non-point source categories that the Clean Water SRF program tracks. The point of this slide is a broad one about alignment of Clean Water SRF with state non-point source program priorities. This is actually a good news slide. In the first 21 years of the Clean Water SRF program, the portion of funding used for non-point source projects was not very well aligned with state non-point source program priorities. That's the pie chart on the left. As you can see, nearly half of it went to large dollar loans for sanitary landfill projects, which could be easily paid back through tipping fees, since trash management is big business and the economics of the business are well understood. Over the past 11 years, we've seen a drastically improved alignment with state non-point source program priorities. That's the pie on the right. So, what this means is that although we're still not funding much on the non-point source side, it still remains around 4% from one year to the next. The projects we have funded in recent years are more in line with state non-point source program priorities. As you can see on the right side of the chart, there are now more investments in hydro modification projects, animal ag BMPs, more silviculture work, more decentralized wastewater financing, and even more land conservation projects. But if we're being honest here, there's still not enough work on agricultural lands relative to the scope of the runoff problems associated with those lands. There are several obstacles states have faced in financing non-point source projects. Perhaps no bigger one than trying to figure out how to pay back a loan for a non-point source project that doesn't generate revenue. However, in many instances, states have handcuffed themselves as restrictions imposed by state code, regulations, or operating policies can create obstacles. I'll say that again. Federal law and guidance provide states with tremendous flexibility. Most of the restrictions against the greater use of Clean Water SRF or non-point source rest with the states, or at least many of them. We at EPA are happy to work with states who are willing to try to develop creative solutions to overcome the roadblocks. We're the government and we're here to help. Just seriously, ask Kansas, or Vermont, Arizona, Maryland, Alaska, North Carolina. The list grows. These are states where we have either recently provided technical assistance or are currently providing it to help them with their own specific desires to overcome those obstacles. And in the coming year, we hope to help another couple of states, so stay tuned for that, or even better, let me know if you have any ideas to help your state out. And you're going to hear about what Kansas was able to accomplish through this technical assistance later in this session. So maybe your state can be the next success. Hey gang, fun fact here. Did you know that Clean Water SRF can be used to meet the 40% matching funds requirement for Section 319 grant projects? This is because at this point in the SRF program, most of the funds in circulation have already been loaned out and repaid back to the state. So it's pro forma to demonstrate that Clean Water SRF funds used for match are no longer from a federal source. In fact, several states have taken advantage of this opportunity. Probably most of us participating in this workshop today understand how the Section 319 funds can be used, so that part on the right side should not be a surprise. But you may be less aware of the variety of ways that Clean Water SRF resources can be used to leverage the effectiveness of your state's program. For instance, did you know that you can use Clean Water SRF resources to develop a watershed-based plan or purchase land conservation easements? The point of this Venn diagram is to show you that there are things that the Clean Water SRF program can do that the 319 program can't do. So now we get to talk about how states have and have not used Clean Water SRF for agriculture, because that's where we see tremendous potential for reducing pollutant loads from excess nutrients, not to mention stemming sediment losses. So here's the picture in total for the first 32 years of the Clean Water SRF program. So far, in all that time, just 15 states have even attempted this use of Clean Water SRF for cropland agriculture. And you can see that about half of them have not done it a whole lot. We want to try to change this picture. Once the FY 2020 numbers come in, we'll get to color in Kansas. Just wondering, will your state be next? And here's the national picture for animal agriculture. 20 states have used Clean Water SRF for this purpose, but only a handful have used it to any significant degree. I don't know if you noticed, but Minnesota is number 1 for using Clean Water SRF for animal ag, with Iowa close behind, and Minnesota is number 1 for cropland ag by a country mile. And that's why Minnesota got invited to speak to you today. They will spill the secrets of their success, so you will want to take notes or hit the replay button. And here's how the data looks in aggregate across the nation over time. You can see how states were very slow to warm up to using Clean Water SRF to fund agricultural BMPs, but got somewhat rolling by around 2006 or so. But there's been a sharp decline since 2013-ish. I wish I could tell you what's up with that, but I can't. Perhaps some of you know, if you are one of the states that did more with Clean Water SRF for ag 10 years ago than you currently do. But Minnesota, Iowa, and Oregon have been pretty steady over the years, so we can learn some important lessons from them. So this past year, we worked with the Kansas SRF program and the state's Nonpoint source program to use Clean Water SRF to help kick cover crop agriculture into a new gear. You're going to hear more about that directly from Amanda Reed a bit later. I just wanted to let you know that there's a final report which provides all kinds of information on how your state can also stand up a program like this. That report is available on EPA's Clean Water SRF SharePoint site, which unfortunately has limited access pretty much to just for the SRF community. But you can also get a copy by emailing either me or Amanda directly. Congratulations, you made it to the last slide. I'm putting in a plug for EPA's forthcoming Best Practices Guide for using Clean Water SRF to address Nonpoint source needs. We hope to release this guide by early next year, as it's been in the works for a while now. And we'll post links to it on EPA's Clean Water SRF website and our Nonpoint source website. We'll broadcast announcements about it through the usual channels. That's it. We will be doing more of the technical assistance pilots next year, like the one we did this past year with Kansas. They are competitive, but as I said, we've funded 6 state pilots so far, so stay tuned for your regional coordinators for these announcements.